All right, it's been about 10 minutes, so I'm going to press it out a little more into that rectangle shape before I shape it. So it's not as cold now, I can feel. And I'm gonna get this in the oven. So for any type of like oblong loaf that you're going to make, you would do this type of similar technique. So we're going to start on one end, and see I'm making it long one ways into a rectangle-ish. All right. So then we're just going to fold it on one end and press that down. Fold it again and press to seal it. And seal. I'm going to do it one last time. Two. Really pinch the seam on the end there. Remember in her video she said don't put too much flour down, because as you, if you do, then your seams are going to have a hard time sticking together. So that might be an issue if you're using too much flour. So just a little roll like this. And there we have a nice looking little baguette. We're going to put, if you don't like the way your ends look, you can tuck them under. Make it prettier from the top. That one's not bad. We are going to put a little egg wash on this before we cut it, slash it, and bake it. And it's up to you. How thin do you want this to be? This is not going to be obviously the finished product like this, because we'll let it proof, rise a little bit more before we bake it, and then it will rise again even more in the oven. So keep that in mind. Oh, that end is not cooperating with me. It's kind of bugging me. Anyway, so make sure that any shaping that you do, that your seam side is always down. That's so that you get the prettier presentation side up, and that the seam won't come undone as you're baking. So this is going to go on my pan, and I have parchment paper to prevent it from sticking. And then as I'm showing you the rolls, I will let this proof. And again, we want to keep it covered so it doesn't dry out. So I'm going to put this aside and show you how to do the rolls. To do the rolls, because I'm only making 6, I have a smaller round pan, but you can use whatever shape you have at home. If you have like a square cake pan, if you have a long rectangular one, like if you're making 12, if you're doing all rolls, you should use a much bigger pan or 2 of these. I've sprayed it with some Pam so that they don't stick. And now we are going to roll them. I had that round earlier. I just cut them into wedges, so like pizza, right? It was like this-ish. And I just went and cut it into 6 pieces. So you can do 8 if you want. They're going to be a little smaller, so it just depends again on what you prefer. So now that you have them portioned out, you need to shape them. And rolls are very different from what I just showed you. So to do a roll, we actually don't want any flour on the counter. In fact, you might need to get your hand a little damp and put that on your counter so you have some tackiness for the dough to kind of catch on as you're rolling, so it gets a really tight dough on a really tight structure, I guess. What I'm trying to say. All right, so again, it's not sopping wet, but just it's not totally derived from flour. You'll see what I mean if you're making rolls. So you're going to fold all of the ends in on itself like that. So just gather all the ends. Again, seam side down. And then you're going to roll it into your little perfect circular roll. Now that's not done, but I wanted to show you what I'm doing with my hand. It's kind of like what I was doing yesterday when I was doing the whole dough with 2 hands. We're using our pinky and like ring finger to try to get the dough to tuck under itself like this and to push in on itself so it gets a tight seam right here. You want to get everything tucked in there. So again, it's slow motion. It looks kind of like this, where you're using that pinky and ring finger to tuck it in, and then it's just grazing your other fingers in that circular. And if you go fast, and if you're going fast like this and you're pushing down, firmly down on the counter at the same time, it really gets a nice shape. So I'm pushing down and around as I'm doing that motion, and there we have a beautiful roll with a tight seam underneath. So this is going to go in my pan and repeat. Oops. Gather all the ends, seam side down. Don't forget, see, this is already too slick, so my dough is just sliding back and forth. I need a little bit of water, just a damp hand there to give the dough something to stick to so that it can really roll into that nice shape that we're going for. And you can tell, you can feel it once it starts getting that firmer, really tucked in seam. It might take you a couple to really get good at this. So don't be worried if your first one is not perfect. I have done this many of times, and I am a bit of a perfectionist in that I really want them to look good. So there's another round one. Probably go a little bit longer to really get that seam tucked in there. Oh, it's too slippery. Don't worry, I'm only doing 3 more. It won't be too much longer. Oop, I got maybe a little too much water on that. You can see it's sticking, really sticking to my hands there. There we go. Just got a little flour in my hands, and that helps. We're gonna put it here. Let's see, I have 2 more. Let's put like that. Careful, your hand that just got the water can be a little sticky like I'm experiencing, so I have to get a little bit of flour. It's not going to stick to the roll too much. Last one. Gather up all the seam edges, pinch it, seam side down. So now I have my 6 rolls, and I'm trying to think of how I want to put this one. Is obviously bigger than the rest, but I think that'll be fine. I should have just left that one there, that's fine. I was thinking about putting it in the middle, but I'm just going to line the ends here. So now this, just like the French bread, it needs to proof. So I'm going to put a clean towel over it, or actually I'll just put it right next to my French bread so they can share the same towel, because this is a big one. So we'll let these proof. I'll give you a peek at what they look like now compared to what they're going to look like in a little bit. Oh, you can't see French bread, sorry. All right,